that has tremor, like not Parkinson's now, just tremor, like really kind of a bad tremor in the hands. Just a real shake, doing anything with the hands, just kind of shake a lot.
Older or
60-ish.
Okay, that's on the verge of older.
But she's had this condition for a long time.
Oh, okay. I would say with a tremor in the hand especially, release the neck. It can be the SCM, it can be the scalings, can be anything. And treat it as an autonomic nervous system disorder, possibly. Now, there are some other things you may want to look into in terms of, is there some sort of weird adrenal, situation going on? I mean, is there something in the medical history that suggests something else? But I would start it as an autonomic nervous system disorder situation and release the neck as my main thing. And I would consider REN 12 as a possible point also on top, because REN 12, number one, is a neurological point. And number two, if you think about, so REN 12 is the beginning of the meridians, and especially of the lung meridians. So if you're thinking of you wanting to open up the area to the arm, then REN 12 could be a good point to do it. I would, it may be a liver 8 or a liver 4 issue, and the reason not so much because of wind as much as because it's possibly there's a contracture of tendons going on. So there could be something contracted along the path that's not nerve and not blood. In other words, releasing the neck is the issue. That's creating the tremor because something is trying to, the brain is sending a signal to the muscle to activate, but the muscle isn't fully capable of doing it because there's some contracture, some blockage, so it's overdoing. Those would be the main things that I would think of. Yeah, at this point, that's pretty much what I would, so I mean, it's kind of interesting. So it still comes to, when I'm saying, so look at liver points because of tendons, so it still comes to like the TCM idea of wind and blood deficiency and stuff like, it's kind of interesting how all these things do connect, even if you're not using the same terminologies. It's always interesting. Now, is it one-sided or both sides? That's the other thing.
Both sides.
Okay, if it's both sides, the chances of being, well, it can still be some weird contracture, it's not as likely, it's more likely to come from a central situation, meaning the neck as a whole, possibly the spine, and it's more likely to be the nervous system than, anything else in the medical history?
Not a whole lot, but she'd had kidney stones at one point and ear infections.
Okay, so here are some options just because. So ear infections as a child, I assume, or or even.
No, kind of even recent.
Okay, all right. So she's prone to that. So the ear.
She was actually hospitalized.
Oh.
With
okay.
I believe a really bad ear infection.
Okay. Then the ear, then that can start creating pressure on accessory nerves and or the brain. So I would look into, so one of the things that, because I don't, I obviously when patients come, they haven't in a while, but when they come back, hopefully, and I don't always have like a good trick for their situation. So I'm always starting with a medical history. Like if I have a clear view, then I do the medical history and I do the clear view, like this is the dogma. In a case where I don't, what I do is, or if it's not enough, then I would, the ear infections could be a primary cause here, conceivably. So ear infections I treat Sanjiao 8, Spleen 7, and liver 13. Okay. And so, and that might do something for the hand. And then for
Even though,
kidney, sorry?
sorry, she's, I believe she's had the tremors before the ear infections, though. She's had the tremors longer than,
Longer than the, oh, so the ear infections really are recent.
yeah, more recent.
Okay, so in this case, what I would say, so here's what I do is I try it anyway because, it may be that she was diagnosed with it. In other words, it manifested like really clearly to be problematic for her, to have symptoms at a certain stage that was later than the tremors. But maybe, now the thing is, Sanjo 8 you're going to use probably anyway to release the neck. So it's kind of like, it might just be, it's just things to look at. And with the same thing with the kidney stones, although with the kidney stones, I don't have like a logical path to say kidney stones, even though, yes, I did say that if there's a weird adrenal phenomenon, but a weird adrenal phenomenon and kidney stones are not necessarily, they don't go together. So I would say I would still look at treating kidney stones, and here you can try, depending on the kind of stones, if she knows what kind of stones they were, because there's fatty stones and mineral stones. If it's mineral stones, I would try the mineral treatment. Kidney 6, spleen 10, heart 3, small intestine 8, and rent 6. If it's fatty stones, I would try maybe UB43 and liver 8 or liver 1.
Or liver 1.
Yeah. And I would still do kidney, because the stones were ultimately in the kidney. So usually either kidney 7 or kidney 9 tend to talk directly to the kidney. If you actually wanted the kidney organ, as per, and then both of these points also release the neck. So so it's like one big experiment sort of thing, because I really don't have like a clear dogma. I would check the spine, the whole spine, but especially the upper thoracic spine, pretty carefully. And check thyroid just in case. Thyroid can lead to tremors also. Somebody has like hyper, like it's more common with hyper. Somebody who's really hyperthyroid, is totally not in control, can have tremors. Yeah, I mean, is it tremors all the time or tremors when they're picking up something?
Mostly actually when they're picking up or doing something with the hands.
Yeah. Then you have two more options. One is whether officially, if it's Parkinson's is supposedly or used to be diagnosed by, if it has to do with attention. When they're paying attention, they don't have tremors, when they're focused. That's proven not to be really 100% true, that they no longer say that, but you have to look at why did people say that 30 years ago? There is possibility of truth to it. And then the other thing is, because it's the grabbing, meaning there's this muscular muscular effort that's happening, and therefore, so look at spleen as an option. Because there could be that again the same idea of like that, with a tendon contractor that's stopping it. It may be some sort of muscular incapacity, muscular weakness that can't quite. Sometimes it's like I don't know enough about the different options, but there is like fast firing fibers and slow firing fibers, and sometimes if they're not coordinating, there's going to be a tremor because the muscle just can't do what the brain is asking it for it. So it could be the nerve, or it could be the muscle not responding to the nerve, sort of thing. So I would still look at is it possible that it's a spleen?
Okay. The other thing actually she gets quite bad is sciatica.
And I'm assuming that's one-sided.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, just checking. Front side or back?
Back.
Back. Okay, so true sciatica. Okay. So I would usually, that would tend to, I mean, you have two options for that. It's either an L5 problem. So I would do sacroiliac and spleen 9 to release L5. And on top of the sacroiliac, I would still do T5, T12, T11, T12, just to open up as much as possible, and small intestine 9, 10 to sort of open up as much as possible, lifting the weight out of L5. Again, because she has this L5 Ren 12. Okay, and then Ren 12 can come with Ren 10 also. Okay, so Ren 10, 12, and 13 all share a name. Okay, they're the middle, upper, lower. And then I would look at kidney 16 on the right, on the side of the sciatica, can do a good job. Possibly gallbladder 26, sorry. Then you have a number of combinations. Officially, the sciatica combination is liver 3 and gallbladder 41. Okay, that's the official combination. It is originally an iron pumping cord combination, but quite honestly, doesn't matter. You can just do the points. That tends to work well if they have pressure pain on the inguinal or the inner thigh. Another combination that works fairly well, that's officially a combination for knees, is stomach 41 and spleen 5. And the last combination is kidney 6 and UB62. That works well if they have pressure pain on the sacroiliac ligaments. Then on the back, or even on the front, you can do it, is Hokaya, gallbladder 31, meaning gallbladder 31, but just go behind, meaning towards the bladder channel, and go 2 fingers, and then 2 fingers above. That tends to release the piriformis, if it's piriformis rather than L5. And again, if it's more piriformis, if it's more muscular, then look at the spleen 3 option.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Anyone else?
Actually, just before
I have, oh, go ahead.
sorry, Camille, just one other quick thing. Just on liver 5, Effie,
Yes.
I know you said before that there's 2 holes generally. I find actually most people have 2 holes in the bone.
Yeah, I find that most people, there's usually 2, and it's usually, well, some people have a lot, but for most people there isn't. I don't recall ever finding somebody with just 1 hole. Okay, so it's a little problematic. I tend to think that it's the lower one that does the trick, unless the lower one is really low. So think about it this way: it should be a minimum of 5 sun above the ankle. It's usually a little high. Okay.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Camille?
Yes, I had 2 questions about what you've just discussed.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on, under sciatica, the relevance of Ren 10, 12, and 13? That would be my first question.
Okay. Oh, answer now. Okay. You sound like you're going to ask both together. So
I could if you like.
no,
The
it's
other-
fine. No, I wasn't.
Yeah, okay.
It's just my psychological anticipation.
Sorry.
No.
We're phrasing. It's early in the morning, folks.
No. It was perfectly valid. So, okay. I cannot give you the full explanation because, okay, I can give you a partial explanation, which is this. They're called the middle, the central, the upper, and the lower guan. Now, guan in my dictionaries doesn't mean anything useful. However, apparently, according to Kiko, there is a Han Dynasty dictionary, which I don't know. I believe it's actually a Japanese dictionary that's written on Han Dynasty Chinese. I don't know enough about it, where it claims that the character Guan really means the character Wan, because they can be called Zhongwan or Zhongguan. Okay, but Wan, W-A-N, the one which basically means a receptacle or something like that, they're saying that what it means is fat, yellow fat. Okay, I can't find this anywhere in any dictionary because I don't have access to those kinds of to this Han Dynasty, blah 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 dictionary, and there is certainly not going to be anything in that's translated to English. So, for example, there are dictionaries like Vigor Dictionary, which is not a dictionary, but it's an etymology dictionary, which you do have it in English as well. They explain to you in English. I don't have the kind of Chinese where I can like literally read the dictionary in Chinese. No way. Okay. So, so what Kiko says is that this character means yellow fat, and where we have yellow fat is inside the bone, and that's the marrow. Therefore, this character she associates with marrow, which means it works for spine issues, and it works for neurological issues because the marrow goes up to the brain. It affects the brain. So Ren 12 will be your main point, and then say you have lower spine issues, you can add Ren 10 because that's the lower one, and you can add Ren 13 if it's above, say the neck. So that's a strategy to look. You can look at it a little differently. So if you don't like all this character manipulation, which unfortunately I can't even do, you can say, so my internet connection is a little bit unstable right this second, so I'm hoping I come through. Is it okay?
You waver from time to time, but mostly it's fine for
Okay.
me.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
for
Good.
me.
All right. I just noticed that there was. So, so what you can look at it also as like treating the Ren to treat the Do, and the Do is both the spine and the nervous system, because the character Do means to supervise, meaning like somebody overlooks the hands that are picking the beans. Okay. And here again, unfortunately, Kiko has a totally different understanding of Do. That has something to do with the beans growing up towards the sun, etc., etc. That's not what my dictionaries say, but it's fine because it's a similar idea in a way. But so sometimes what you can do is, if you have a pain on the spine, you can needle same, and you can't get rid of it. You can try needle same level on the Ren channel and hope that it transmits to the back. So this Ren 12, 10, 13 business is a way, is kind of a way of treating that. So Do basically, obviously it's the spine, but also as supervisor or governor. It's obviously relating to either the hormonal or the nervous system. Because a governor is unlike the emperor, okay? The governor looks very powerful. The governor has a lot of capacity, but the governor is not the real decision maker at the end of the day. So the emperor is. And the emperor in this particular understanding would be the brain. The Do looks very powerful to the body. The nervous system looks very powerful to the body, but it is under the control of the nonetheless. Okay. So that would be another way to look at this, either etymologically or treat the Ren to treat the Do.
And that sounds like such a brilliant combination to try out for the patient I was asking about last week with the bone cancer at T8, because it's right there.
Oh, yes. Oh, well,
And
yeah, except that I always think, well, it's right there and it's enough of a distance. Yeah, I would, if it was me, I would have done diode rings. I would have taped diode rings on the
you would
channel.
what?
Tape diode rings or tape magnets.
Oh, diode rings. Okay. Yeah. I swear
I'm
I
not
thought
that
you said
comfortable.
diet drinks.
Yeah, diet drink. Oh, yeah. Because they have cancer, they should go on a diet.
and drink lots of
drinks.
artificial sweetener.
Yes, very good for cancer, I tell you.
The ticket. Yeah.
I will. And
diode rings.
Yeah, I will say this. So my understanding is, so when Kauai came, that was 20 years ago. And this was still at a time when you can go meet people at the airport at the gates and stuff. So I had to, he came with his wife, and I met him at the airport, and then I got him to go from San Francisco to Boston. Then from Boston, he came back to San Francisco and got on a plane to Japan. So we're going through security on the way from, when he lands from Boston, then we're going to the other plane. And we're going through security, and he and his wife both, they go in like 5 times they have to take them through, because every time they would take something off their bodies, some of these diode chains and rings and stuff, they had tons of stuff on them everywhere. And eventually the checkers basically went, it's fine, just go. Literally, they went back and forth every time they took something else off. But my understanding is that he had cancer, I believe stomach cancer, and he cured it with diode ring taping. Now he had weird equipment on top of it that, like he had more powerful diode rings than what we have. Like he had these special magnets that don't have a south and north, but he put them on rent area also. So that's why I'm kind of like, I'm a little bit more partial for putting magnets or diode rings on Ren 12, just because the T8 is kind of right behind, and I kind of don't like the idea of needling right into, it's not right into. I mean, there's at least 5-6 inches between, but there's something in me that tends to resist it. But that's
okay.
just me. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
So go ahead. Is there a second?
And I did have a second question about what we discussed, which is under ear infections, you mentioned a point combination. Of course, Sanjiao 8, that's clear. But can you speak to spleen 7 and liver 13, why you would use those points?
Okay. Yes. So liver 13 is mine. Spleen 7 is the official. So in other words, liver 13 is not officially in there, except if I'm doing it. So spleen 7 is a point that Nagano always said was a kidney point. That's on the spleen channel, which is somewhat similar to the idea that, Jeffrey talks about, that there is a channel that goes between kidney 2 and spleen 8. So that's, you don't see that channel mentioned a lot, but Jeffrey has always talked about that channel. And actually,
isn't that a low vessel?
Well, okay, this is what I'm thinking. Okay, I don't think, actually, I'm not sure if spleen 8 is correct, because spleen 8 is DG, and yes, it's supposed to be something to do with lower, but it isn't a lower because, because neither spleen 8 nor kidney 2 are lower points. Okay, so, but where he talked about it was in with regards with goo. He once used to have like this whole goo treatment by name, and run goo, kidney 2, is the blazing goo, okay, valley or food, and spleen 7 is low goo, the leaking goo. Okay, now, so that's where I can see that actually spleen 7 makes more sense maybe than spleen 8, but what do I know? Spleen 8 is the she point, if I recall, of the spleen channel. It's one of those things you have to go back to acupuncture school again to remember some of these things.
Yeah.
But but for Nagano, spleen 7 is more of a kidney point. It treats, for example, ears. And it's the main point for edema, for pitting edema when there's water accumulation in the body. And that's, in Western terms, that's a kidney phenomenon, accumulation of fluids. I mean, it can be a cardiac phenomenon also, but, so, it's a point that clearly has an affinity for the kidney. And its other big thing is it stops bleeding, which is not a kidney issue. So that's why spleen 7 and Sanjiao 8 is this combination. Now, liver 13 is the point that, number one, it's on the line, on the Shaoyang line that relates to the ears. And liver 13 originally was a point that you would use for what, we used to call it deep pain. Okay, deep tissue pain, I think was the expression. And for the mastoid. Okay, it has a in which deep pain and mastoid, if you look at those two together, you're basically getting something like possibility of autoimmune. Those two correlate. The pressure pain on the mastoid often comes in autoimmune, and the deep tissue pain can be autoimmune. So liver 39 sometimes add to autoimmune disorders, but also for ear issues. It seems to do a good job for ears. You know, it would not be my first go-to, but it's something that I would very, very often add and get extra mileage from. And I needle it outwards, you know, sort of down towards the table, but slightly outside. In other words, I'm doing it with the patient facing out. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much.
All right. And John, welcome. Do you want me to unmute you or do you want to stay unmuted?
John, he's talking to you.
Oh,
Yes,
he's
no.
on. He does the chat thing instead. Okay. Okay, no problem. I need to see what the chat says to figure out what John has said. You're good. Okay, no problem. Anyone else? Questions, answers, whatever.
Can I ask about the
Yes.
quite similar to the spine things? I just had the somebody inquiring about self-treatment. He had, it's not sciatica, but it's a herniated disc on the L5S1 area. Is there anything that you could suggest that
Yeah.
possibly patient can
For
do?
herniated discs, always, I missed one sentence that you said. Somebody called you about some treatment, but I wasn't sure. There was one word I missed.
Yes, that's some home treatment that they
Home
could do because
treatment.
he
Oh,
was
home
due
treatment for
for
themselves. Okay.
yeah, because he was due for the operation, but obviously it's been
Yeah.
cancelled.
Okay.
And so
Spleen
anything,
9. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So spleen 9, if he massages spleen, and now of course if he has a chubby spleen 9, it's going to be, you know, like much more effective.
Yeah.
You know, more likely to be effective than if he has a skinny, you know, spleen 9 that generally, you know, you can tell that ain't going to do it. You can try inner yin because that's going to support his perineal floor to hold up his spine better. Well, unless he has someone else at home to do sacroiliac ligaments for him, but what he can do is tennis ball on the ligaments. Roll with a tennis ball on
Sorry,
the
I couldn't hear the tennis ball on.
Tennis ball, to roll with the tennis ball on the sacroiliac ligaments. So he's lying on the back and rolling his butt. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And then possibly Ren 12, Ren 10 are good possibilities. So again, if you can get him magnets somehow,
yeah,
you know, then he can do a magnet on spleen 9. Kidney 7, by the way, would also be a good point.
Okay.
Sometimes I'm thinking of things that he can reach and are easy. There's a possibility lung 5 might do something.
Okay. The reason is.
Yeah. Okay. yes, I know. So you're not going to like well, you might like the reason, I don't know. But it's the water point. Okay. So first of all, it's opposite the clock from the bladder. Okay. It's across the clock from the bladder, therefore it has an effect. It's a Tai Yin for Tai Yang. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I know this sounds like crazy, but it's the water point. Lung 5 has an interesting effect on the back. It tends to open the back. I don't know if it's because it opens the diaphragm. I mean, everything I said to you was cute stuff for the tan people, but you know, I think possibly it somehow affects the breathing capacity and the diaphragm, and therefore manipulates the rest of the back. But I don't really know. I can just tell you that it does. The other thing is you can look at do 16 gallbladder 20 area and massage upwards. And again, maybe even with a tennis ball, like roll on it.
Yeah.
And see if that helps. And if not that, maybe small intestine 13 area might help. But yeah, the home treatment is always a really, I mean, It's one thing, home treatment, when you put magnets or press stacks and they can press on it, that's one thing. But home treatment, like, okay, here's the description of the points, and we'll have a Zoom session and go tape yourself. I don't know. I just don't have to know. You know, this is all new for all of us. So, so hold on. There seems to be something. Okay. The
Oh,
way
questions? Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Quick question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
When you said lung 5, do you mean Kiko's lung 5 or
Yes,
Chinese lung 5?
not the one by the tendon. The one by the tendon, in my opinion, doesn't quite do it. So.
Okay, so Kiko's lung 5.
Kiko's lung 5, yeah, slightly more lateral. So John writes, frankly, the way I understand spleen 7 kidney connection is because spleen 7 disperses pathological fluids. You can tell that a function of the spleen, which is in charge of transport and transformation, but like Avi says, in modern medicine, it would be a function of the kidneys to get rid of fluids. The same for the ears. They are sensitive to fluid problems. Yeah. Hence, spleen 7 may work. I've used spleen 7 with success for carpal tunnel syndrome that was caused by fluid. Oh, cool. Thank you. By fluid so used for carpal tunnel syndrome that was caused by fluid accumulation. Thank you. So, we have mute participants that prefer to type. So I can't believe you typed it so fast. So anyone else?
We're just going to mention herniated discs. They're having.
Oh, okay. So any herniated disc, basically, I'm looking at sacroiliac ligaments, especially if it's lower spine, to give some space. Now, if it's herniated to the point where the disc is shifted forward, you're only going to get limited success with it. Spleen 9, if it's L4, L5 area, which I think you said it was. So spleen 9 is sacroiliac, kidney 7, and possibly gallbladder 39. Then when you turn them over on the back, you know, to do the back, I would do small intestine 9, 10. I would do Yao Yan, okay, the lumbar eye outwards, so the so-called four corners, to stretch out the spine, to just take pressure pain out of it. I would again do 16 and or gallbladder 20 area, you know, just look for what's sensitive. You can, by the way, to do this, you can take stomach 8 to do 24 area and see if any of this helps. Okay. And I would still do T5 and T11, 12, and the reason why those, okay, I would do those because these are the highest curves of the spine. Okay, the biggest places where the curve changes, and therefore they're going to affect the rest of the spine. I would definitely needle them upwards because you want to lift the spine upwards, and I would also consider bladder 49 outside the T11 upwards to lift the ribs away. Now, if the pain is very clearly one-sided, you can also try gallbladder 26 of that side and heart 3 of that side. Okay. But sorry. So and again, because the question was kind of similar with Chiho's, I would still do inner yin because inner yin and mushu, because you really want to create that elongation, that support in the perineal floor that can support the spine. Okay. Now, if spleen 9 doesn't work, spleen 3 might. The name of the point is Tai Bai, the great white, but white really means the character is the sun just rising, like dawn. That's why everything is white, you know. So it's something that rises. That, you know how when they talk about the spleen rising, this is the point that's supposed to be the spleen rising, and it's supposed to support the spine, the rising of the spine. So sometimes spleen 3 is actually better than spleen 9, even though it's L4, L5. And I was thinking of one more thing as it came across, but it escaped me, so I'm sorry. Yeah, Oh, stomach 41 sometimes, and I usually leave that one for the end. And sometimes even after they got off the table, and I'll press on it and leave a press stack in or something. Stomach 41, sometimes it can just change the whole structure of the gate, and therefore kind of, because what happens with a herniated disc is you basically want to like give it some space around it so that it's not like, oh, everything's pressing on it. Sometimes it's pressing downwards, sometimes it's pressing sideways or whatever, but you want to somehow lift it. Now, one more thing, if they have a very large abdomen or very large breasts, then stomach 13 would be very important. Okay, because that pressure on the inguinal, what happens is that they're basically shifted all the weight forward, and they created a hyperlordotic back, which creates the tension on the L5. So that is another possibility, but that's a unique, you can usually tell a case is going to be like that because either they're walking in and they're, as the Japanese paper called Boris Johnson, little chubby, little fat. there's a, or they may be skinny, but they're super lordotic. I mean, they're sticking the butt out and their abdomen's like, they have no abdomen, but it's like, 2 feet in front of them. That it's especially common in women, a little less in men, but that they're not big. You can't call them visceroctosis, but because of the posture, because they're so splayed forward and the ribs are pushed, they usually will, as a result, they'll squeeze the shoulder blades together to keep them, because otherwise they're going to fall forward. Okay, the tailbone sticking back, the rib cage is pushed forward, and in between, is falling downwards. They have no support in the waist for the spine. So that's the type of person that stomach 13 and inner yin would be very helpful. Okay?
Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else?
That would be a very interesting topic to discuss sometime. And I don't know that now is the time. I don't know, you might want to think on it because it's kind of big, but an analysis of different body structures like lordosis, like kyphosis, the kind of, I'm not thinking of the term, but the kind of leaning forward that leads to hammer toes and that kind of stuff that Jeffrey associates with Yang Ming. I know there's a name for it in Western medicine and it's not coming to mind, but it might be interesting to kind of analyze all these different structures and get your take on that.
Okay. Yeah, it would be. So here's my request on that, if you're willing. Can you, because we all list different body types, so I can give you a very quick lecture on things that I see immediately, but there are probably things that I'm not even conscious that I'm seeing. So and yet react to them. So if you put up a list of body types that are of interest or you think are useful or whatever, then it might trigger, if we can create a collaboration on that might be more, so the lordotic and the kyphotic are two that I can immediately come up with. There's the hyperextended knees, meaning I think sometimes you call it knotted knees. That is very important. And then there is the apple type and the pear type. Okay, so just very quickly on those, and then maybe over time we'll accumulate more.
Okay, and then the ones also that come to mind are Jeffrey's Taiyang Yang Xiaoyang types.
Okay, so those are, the Taiyang type tends to be hyperextended in the knees and they tend to be lordotic. And the Yang Min is supposedly kyphotic to some extent, but although they're also going to be turned, in the hips. Okay, and the Xiaoyang is the leaning type, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
I don't have as good an association as, because Jeffrey has a very clear psychological mood model for these. It's the
you just cut out. You just
cut out.
Yeah, I didn't hear what
I came
I
up.
think it's your internet. I didn't hear the last 20 or 30 seconds. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I thought you were commenting on Jeffrey. he just got
Oh.
out from jail
Oh
or
no,
something.
no. You're sorry. Your internet just cut out.
I totally hear you. Now I understand. So what I said was I don't have as good a model. Jeffrey has a very clear model on these three types. It really resonates for him, and he has a very clear psychological understanding of Taiyang. I'm reaching forward. I'm too busy. I'm the ambitious type. The Yang Min is I'm always I'm not moving forward. I'm always moving inwards. And the Xiao Yang is I'm not sure which way I should go. So and he associates it with cold, the Yang Min, the cold heat and dampness. How am I reacting to change? With coldness, meaning I don't want to move forward. Am I running forward too much? Or am I saying, oh, maybe, so the Xiaoyang posture. I don't have I think that I don't have like treatment, understanding for these necessarily. But in terms of the types that I have listed, so somebody who's a so-called pear-shaped, meaning they have big buttocks, yeah, that's a pair. Yeah, a pair. Big buttocks, big thighs, but they're thin from the waist upwards. And now, as they get older, it's not going to be quite as obvious. So when they're younger, sometimes you're looking at them from the waist up, and you're looking at their chest, and this is men a little less so, but women, it's super clear. You're thinking, my God, you're going to be Miss Tweety when you get up. They get up and you go, my God, these thighs don't belong to you, because from the waist up, they're skinny, and the buttocks and the thighs are like way wide and fleshy. That's considered a spleen type. Okay, there's a lot of flesh. The apple type is the opposite. This is the type that actually men tend to have that more commonly and more of a caricature. You do see women like that. But with men, we sort of call it, it's the beer belly, but what they have is skinny legs, and then they're big and around the belly, So if you're looking at their legs, you're expecting them to be skinny, skinny torso. But when you're looking at the top, when you're looking at the torso is actually, sometimes it's really huge. Sometimes it's not. So I had a woman that when she laid down, you could see that there was just a lot of like quote unquote baby fat, around the belly, and she was a liver type, although her issue was, she was waiting for a kidney transplant, which, by the way, often I have found, I don't have huge amounts of experience, but a lot of kidney failure issues start with the liver. That it's very important with kidney failure patients to treat their liver first. Or also. So the very skinny legs, so it's like an apple, like a candied apple, like in where we're not supposed to go, the Luna Parks, where you get a candy apple on a stick, except it has two sticks. Okay, so that's a liver type. Okay, it's an accumulation of fat. Okay. The kyphotic type, basically I would still do sacroiliac ligaments to support it, but basically I would look at doing small intestine 9-10 and the inner border of the scapula, but support that because you're opening the chest. You need to make sure the waist is going to be strong enough to support it. So do bladder 52 needled inwards. Okay, so I'm starting at the base with sacroiliac and bladder 52 towards the spine. Now I can ply out the chest by doing small intestine 9-10 and UB 42, 43, 44. You can also do the trochanterpoint for the kyphosis, might help also. The lordotic type, okay, is generally, I would start looking at stomach 41. And I, depending if they're super lordotic, yeah, then I would look at this stomach 13 and Irnigian, because it's like a visceral process. Even though they're not huge necessarily, that can't be because they're huge and being pulled forward, but it can be just the posture. And definitely sacroiliac for the lordosis. All of these, the lordotic, kyphotic, it's worth looking at do 2, and it's worth looking at gallbladder 39 needled upwards. Okay. Anyone else?
You mentioned a little bit earlier about hyperextended knees. Is that different from other joints, hyperextended?
Yes, because of the weight.
Oh, okay,
Because,
okay.
because it carries, so if you have hyperextended elbows, I mean, usually people with hyperextended knees are going to have hyperextended elbows. They're going to have, these are the 2 joints that you see it, but often, because you're not going to see it in the shoulder. They're capable of doing weird things in the shoulders unless they start twisting themselves around. So the thing about, it's kind of their high. The thing that matters is that not so much just that they're hyperextended, but they're hyperextended, and then the knees come towards each other when they stand. Okay, so even if they're turning out at the hips, at the thighs, the knees are always going to have this desire to pull together. And I would start with stomach 41. And possibly, if you're comfortable with liver 8, because there's no pathology in the knee, it's not like they come for knee pain, I would do liver 8, but if not, liver 4 on those. Because it's a hyperextension of primarily of tendons. It can be of muscles, in which you want to give them a little bit more control of muscle. So possibly spleen 3, Ren 12.
Is that normal spleen 3, not like sugar point spleen 3?
Sorry?
Is that normal spleen 3?
I only have 1 spleen 3.
Okay.
The ideology of spleen 3.2 is very cute, but it's like, to me, because I never needle spleen 3 right on the bone anyway.
Right. Okay.
So I don't really see the difference. I think it's something that was kind of a cute thing, and it's it got enshrined that there is a spleen 3.2. For me, they're all the same. That's just me. Anything else? All right. Everybody doing okay in their little confinements? Everybody's healthy.
I'm incredibly grateful to have this time off, actually.
You're not the only one in the world. A lot of people are saying it.
Yes. So, yes.
We're all discovering that the normal we used to have that we're supposed to go back to might not be what we want. But we're not sure how not to get back there. So.
Yeah. Yes, precisely, Avi. That's for me. But yeah, I'm grateful, and I know how fortunate I am to be in that position. So I know not everyone is experiencing it that way.
No, but a lot of people are. You're certainly not you're not the only one. You're in good company all over the world with this feeling of like, wait a second, like they really want me to open up and go back to my rat race. I'm not willing to do that. I'm not even sure I can go to a store now. It's like, I don't know if I really want to go to a regular store and wait in line, because I'm over 60. I go at, I go just before 6 o'clock. I'm like 5th in line. We wait 2 meters apart. Then I go in. I'm like usually the first one out of there. Everything is fabulous. I don't know if I can handle going food shopping and waiting online. It's like, and what am I going to do without a mask? I'm going to go out and not have a mask and not have gloves on, and it's going to be a very odd world. A friend
Well,
of mine.
and
Yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. Sorry, no, no, no. I thought you would pause. No, go ahead, please.
No, a friend of mine who does, she's very big into AA. And when this first started, the first week, I helped them sort of set up because I've been doing this Zoom meeting for like 6 months before. I'm like an expert on Zoom, supposedly. I helped them set up Zoom AA meetings. And so after about a week, I said, "Oh, how's it going?" She said, "Oh, it's we like it." And but she said it's very odd. I don't, it's like I get up in the morning, and I'm supposed to go to my meeting, and I realize I'm not supposed to go anywhere. I'm just turning on my computer. And I said, "Just wait. In about 4 weeks, or whenever this thing comes to an end, and there's not going to be Zoom meetings, you're going to get up in the morning, turn your computer on, and you go, oh my God, I'm supposed to go out, and I'm supposed to get dressed." And do my hair and whatever else. So I think it is going to be a big shock for us, however slow or however this comes. There's a huge cultural shift that's not going to be so easy. I'm actually very curious to see in Israel, they just opened up Sunday, yesterday, that allowing more things to be open because they had very, very strict quarantines or lockdowns or whatever it's called. And acupuncturists now are allowed, they're now considered an essential business. They were not before. I'm very curious to see if people actually go and what's happening, because I don't know let's say in 3 months, 4 months, whenever, if people are going to come back so easily. I think people are going to think twice before they go. We're all going to be, some of us are going to just want to freak out and go anywhere we can. And some of us are just going to want to okay, can I stay home? And it's going to be weird and interesting to see how it works out. But go ahead, Camille.
Oh, all I was going to say is one of the biggest things, and I was aware of it, but now I really see how much money I spend in order to make money. Like I'm not paying rent on my office now. I'm not driving. I have all the time in the world to stay home and cook instead of running down to the salad bar and, getting food. And I mean, I've scaled my lifestyle back so much that it's like, I don't need that much money to live on. I always talk about how expensive it is to live in Silicon Valley, but it's expensive to have a practice in Silicon Valley. It's not nearly as expensive to live here.
If you have decent rent.
It's very eye-opening for me I mean, it's something I knew, but now I really see the extent of it.
Yeah, and I think many of us are observing that. Everybody has different expenses. I mean, there are people who just go out to whatever Lowe's or Home Depot or Target or TJ Maxx or Macy's just as entertainment. Which is fine. I mean, it's available, but now it's not available. So now you have to go, oh, maybe I don't need all these things and, or this entertainment, or, even if they just go window shopping. I mean, I, because I work by myself mostly. I don't have a social, I go shopping once a week now. I used to go at least twice because it was a way to get out. Yes, I could have done my shopping in once a week, but it was more convenient to do it twice a week or whatever. So I think a lot of us are going to discover some of our consumption habits are just no longer as obvious, simply because we took a break. Yeah. So, anyone else before we end? Silence. All right.
Thank you so much, Avi.
Thank you. Enjoy
Thank
the
you.
week. Keep well, keep sane, and whatever. We'll keep going until one day we'll be back to normal in some manner or another. So,
Okay. Thank you, Abby.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.